I did an audit of a few thousand products across lots of different categories and found that upwards of 84% of variety types are signaled using a particular colour. So most brands will use green to signal that something is plant-based. It is a really common strategy, but from my preliminary research, what we found is that it's actually not a very good one. And what I mean by not very good is it's not a very effective way to signal product variety to consumers. The purpose of using those colours is really to signal to you and communicate what the particular flavour is or the particular variety. But actually, the colours used by brands and the colours that are expected by consumers align only about 16% of the time. So this is from a piece of research I did in the US that looked at chewing gum, fabric conditioner, and also toothpaste, just to audit and map out all of the different colours that brands are using to signal variety. So gum enamel toothpaste is actually signaled with purple very commonly across all the different brands in the market. And yeah, they just don't really line up when you ask consumers what colour they expect particular varieties to be. When you look at it, you think, yes, green is plant-based, that makes sense, but it actually doesn't map out that way for the vast majority of products. So to give you an example, in the chewing gum category in the US, 80% of tropical flavoured chewing gum uses the colour yellow. But when you ask consumers what colour they expect tropical gum to be, only 5% of them said yellow. So it's a bit of a shoot and miss kind of strategy. It is effective in some regards when there is a clear link to, or we call it congruence to the ingredient. So strawberry and red works really well, mint and green works really well, lemon and yellow, because those are associations that are built outside of the marketing context. They're a little bit more effective, but more often than not, it needs to work with other elements on pack, like images. Images are a much more effective way of signalling product variety. Just using a colour because your fellow competitors are, and you think, I have to make it this colour because that's the category expectation, that's the category norm, is not necessarily very effective. Slightly better if you're a market leader and more people have those associations, but in general, colour, whilst it's a very dominant strategy, it's not the most effective one.
So if we were to play devil's advocate here and say, let's just pick on chewing gum and the yellow and whatnot. If all key competitors or, organizations that operate in that space use yellow as like their tropical flavor, will that not go a long way in building that consistency that maybe a consumer, even in the onset, may not be the right association? Or is there something to be said by sheer volume that at some point the consumer's mind naturally tips? There's a tipping point that it's like, okay, now I'm associating yellow with tropical.
It's a good way of thinking about it, because when we talk about association, we're really referring to associative learning, which falls on the associative network theories of memory. To give you a very short lesson, the way that we learn things is we encounter information and we store it as a node in our memory, like a little nugget. And when we encounter other related information, the two become connected together by an associative link. So in that sense, we would learn to associate the colour yellow with tropical gum every time we purchased tropical gum, or every time we saw that yellow tropical gum, or we encountered it, our friend gave us a piece, we saw a piece of advertising, and that would build the association between yellow and tropical. So that absolutely does happen, and that's the reason why it's a bit more effective for market leaders, because they have wider reach. More people are buying those products, so more people do hold that association. But it's a slower strategy. So I think assuming that people hold that association is where that danger point lies. I'm not saying that brands shouldn't use colour as a strategy. Absolutely, colour is really important visual aid to help people in shopping environments. My caution is, don't let the variant colouring overwhelm your branding on pack, because what we see more often than not is people prioritise yellow ahead of whatever brand colour they might have. And then you'll see an instance where all of the tropical gums look the same, but your product looks more like competing brand tropical gum than it does the other flavours within your portfolio. You end up with a portfolio of products that each prioritise the flavour and therefore look quite different to one another. but you're missing out on the benefit of having a cohesive portfolio where there's something on a branding level that links them all visually as well. So it's a nice balancing point that you have to get the right mix.
It's a slippery slope too. I can see like